Hi, welcome to the Microjig shop. My name is Morgan, and today we're going to build this two-tone crossfade cutting board. And this isn't just any cutting board. This cutting board inspired the invention of the gripper. So we're going to go through all the steps and recreate the cutting board that started it all. If you're new to the gripper, this is a great way to start making cuts and get comfortable using it. You'll need two contrasting wood types, 6 inches wide and 16 inches long of each. I chose walnut and maple. A gripper, wood glue, clamps with at least a 12-inch clamping capacity, caffeinated beverage, beef jerky, and tunes. You got all that? Good. Let's do this. As with any woodworking project, we'll start by flattening our stock on the joiner. If you don't have a joiner and you're using pre-milled stock, just make sure to pick the straightest boards you can find. Next, cut your stock down to approximate length. I'm giving myself an extra 2 inches so that I can square up the ends once it's all glued together. Once you have one face and one edge jointed, we can move over to the planer and plane them both down to the same thickness. If you don't have a planer, you can cut all of your parts to uniform thickness on the table saw after you cut all your widths. You'll notice that the pattern of this cutting board is a symmetrical fade from one color to another. That means that each walnut strip has a maple counterpart of equal width. All right, we'll go ahead and start making our cuts, starting with the widest at 1 3/4 of an inch. Once you cut one piece of walnut and one piece of maple, go ahead and move your fence down to 1 1/4 of an inch. The next pair will be 7/8 of an inch. After that, it'll be 5/8 of an inch. Next, we got 3/8 of an inch. Now move your fence down to 1/4 of an inch. Now right out of the box, the gripper can cut down to 1/4 of an inch wide. But I want this board to have a little bit smoother of a transition so that it's more gradual going from one color to the other. So I'm going to cut my last few strips down to smaller than 1/4 of an inch by using the 1/8 inch leg. And the 1/8 inch leg will attach to your gripper right onto the side of either the 1/4 inch or the 1/2 inch leg. Alright, so now we're going to cut our last two widths at 3/16 of an inch and all the way down to 1/8 of an inch. Remember, one of each, walnut and maple. Alright guys, all of our parts are cut and we're ready to glue them together. In order to get this fade effect, you take the largest of one species and combine it with the smallest of the other. So we're going to take the largest walnut and the smallest maple. Now the second largest walnut and the second smallest maple, and keep going down the line until your whole thing's put together. Alright, the parts are cut, the pattern is arranged. Now let's glue it up. First things first is your clamping surface has to be flat, and I mean flat. Next up, I'm quite fond of this table that I made. It's a dovetail grid table that I made for our dovetail clamps. Because I'm fond of this table, I don't want to get glue on it. So to keep the glue off of my table and to keep my board from sticking to the table, I'm going to use some wax paper. Now understand the likelihood of you having this many dovetail clamps and this dovetail clamping table pretty slim, so I'm going to show you how to do it with just regular old pipe clamps, because those will work too, I guess. Alright, the board's all glued up, now leave it alone and let it dry overnight. See you tomorrow. What's up? Board's dry, now we can start taking off these clamps. All right, see all this glue here from the squeeze out? We don't want that sticking up because it's not gonna sit level on the planer and it can dull the blades. So we're gonna scrape it off with this here scraper. All right, the Glue scraped off, now let's take it over to the planer. Come on. Again, if you don't have a planer, that's fine. It's just going to take you a while to sand it smooth. All right, once you've run it through the planer, bring it over to your router table and pick your favorite bit. I'm going to use a 3/8 roundover because that's the way this board was originally made, but you can use whatever profile you like. I don't care. All right, it's been planed smooth. Both sides have been squared up and cut to length, and we put a roundover on it. Now we're ready to sand it. It's a good idea when you're sanding anything to have something stabilizing it on at least 3 sides, ideally 4. Last but certainly not least is applying finish. I'm using this Doctor's Woodshop cutting board wax because I like it. Whatever finish you use, make sure that it's food safe. It'll say on the label, food safe. If it doesn't say that, don't use it. I don't want you guys getting sick. All right, and there it is. Pretty simple. If you followed along and made one of your own, tag us on social media and show us what you did. We'd love to see it. Check back often for more projects and more tutorials. We'll see you next time. Thanks.
Microjig. Work safer. Work smarter.